guys, what's going on, and welcome to a slightly different video here on Philly Sports Network. Typically, Tuesdays and Wednesdays for me are film room days, and this week there's a heavy focus on Travis Fulgham. Minor quibble though, every time I go on NFL Game Pass at the moment, this happens, which is exactly what the doctor ordered if the doctor worked for the Eagles medical staff, so that's great. And then I was like, well, maybe I should talk about the Zach Ertz situation, and realised I can't really do that without the film. And then, luckily for me, a load of Eagles little tidbits dropped throughout the day. Some of them important, some of them confusing, and I thought it'd be a good idea to just sit down, have a little chat, and work out what's going on with this team, because there is a lot to discuss here. Before we get into it though, guys, again, if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content from a high-pitched British Eagles reporter. And if you want to join our Eagles group chat, there is a link in the description. There's going to be plenty of giveaways, competitions, it's free to do, and there are nearly 200 Eagles fans already running riot in there, making friends and being mean about Nate Gary. I don't know what constitutes group chat gold more than Eagles fans, giveaways, and being mean about Nate Gary. And that's oddly where we've got to start this video, because Jim Schwartz had his weekly press conference today and had a slightly interesting stance on the linebacker position. So I'm going to read you what he actually said earlier today. He was quizzed about the lack of resources at the linebacker position, and the fact that the team had gone from extending Nigel Bradham and drafting players to signing big free agents and just sort of letting them all go and then nothing happening. So Schwartz's response to the lack of resources at the position was, I mean, you mentioned some of those guys we've had. We pay free agent money to guys like Nigel Bradham. Jim, that was 2 years ago, mate. It's like seeing a friend in the street and them asking if you're seeing someone. You being like, yeah, I went on a date with a girl 3 years ago. And you know, I went to say your hair looked nice and accidentally said, is that your hair? And like, Liam, that was 3 years ago. I've been there. I've been on the dates, believe me. My middle name is Date. This year we put some draft picks in there. We have the guys that we have. What does that even mean? We have the guys that we have. Well, obviously you have the guys that you have. Otherwise you wouldn't have the guys. Like, I don't know what he's getting at there at all. And he was again asked about the resources, and he said, I'll leave the team building stuff and roster management, Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman, so I can't answer it. What? Well, I mean, this is the same guy that apparently wanted Zach Brown over Jamie Collins, so that's strike one in the I don't get it column. And then even if you aren't making those decisions or have a hand in them, still got a plethora of talent involving guys like Sean Bradley, who actually got some snaps on Sunday, Davion Taylor, for instance, and a few other players as well who are getting absolutely zero playing time, while Nate Gary is your starting linebacker and just being traumatic. Like, to be fair to him, there have been a couple of good plays he's made, but the bad far outweighs the good. That's like saying one of the pros of being sick is that you might not eat as much and lose a bit of weight. Doesn't quite work like that. Don't understand that when asked about the linebacker position and the spending of assets on it, his immediate reaction is to reference a contract that was signed 2 years ago for a player that's no longer on the team. Very much like my live streams. Either way, that was a thing, but something that may actually take the pressure off of Nate Gary, I think, will be the return of Will Parks, which is something we might see sooner rather than later. He's been activated with a 21-day practice designation, and that's huge for the former Bronco. To make room, the Eagles did part ways with 2 players. They've also protected 2 practice squad guys. We'll get to that in a little bit. But if Will Parks can play Sunday, or even next week or the week after, getting him back is absolutely huge. This is a player that, just for context here, if you take a look at his positional distribution in 2019, he's about as versatile as one could possibly imagine. He will play everywhere. He can play in the box, out the box, punter, head coach, you name it, he can do it. That's exactly what this defense needs right now, considering how light they are all across the board. The secondary's light, and Nate Gary could really use some help with someone that can hold his own inside the box. And Parks is someone that has experience at even Mike linebacker. He has played the Mike position and he's done it well. He's got the physicality to play inside. He's got the situational awareness to play slightly further off the ball and be in run support. Like, he's in the run fits quite a lot. I'm excited to see what Parks can do. He really grew into his role in Denver, ended up with 35 tackles and an interception last year, but when you look at how bare bones this safety position is now, we talk about the loss of Malcolm Jenkins and how that's impacted the team. Well, at the minute, Jalen Mills, you were supposed to negate that loss, is now playing cornerback because there's no depth. And I say playing cornerback, I very much mean attempting to play it and riling up every player on the other team in the process. Meanwhile, you've got Marcus Epps and Rodney McLeod, both of those guys kind of playing over the top, and Kayvon Wallace occasionally filtering in. It's not quite the defensive identity that we've become so used to seeing from Jim Schwartz. And getting someone like Will Parks back, in my opinion, absolutely massive. Now, the two players that were waived today were Casey Toohill and Grayland Arnold. Now, most notably Toohill, 7th round pick by the team, defensive end, had an amazing summer. There is a risk that either of those guys could be picked up by another team, so I don't really like it. They'll be hoping to get them back on the practice squad. They've protected guys like Elijah Riley and the tight end Kroom, I believe, in their place, which is fine, but I don't know. I feel like they're just exposing them to waivers. Grayland Arnold was a coveted undrafted free agent, and Toohill is a developmental talent at defensive end. Someone that did displace, let's not forget, Sharif Miller, who's oddly visiting with the team today. That annoys me. I mean, like, for crying out loud, I understand he was a former draft pick, but this is someone that, again, guaranteed us 10 sacks in 2020, not 10 visits to the team in 20. I've got to stop. I've got to let that joke go. I'm sorry. And finally, a bit of good news that Lane Johnson will not need surgery on his ankle. It's something that has plagued him this year. He's been pulled out of 2 consecutive games, which sucks. I mean, the Eagles really are a different team when Lane Johnson isn't in the lineup. But it concerns me the fact that they went to get a second opinion, and the opinion was they didn't need surgery. Purely because we've seen this train before with Deshaun Jackson, and it often ends in destination heartbreak. I would much rather the team play it cautiously. If it might need surgery, if it's a plausibility, just get it done. The offensive line is battered and bruised. You've got a tough run of games. It's not like I think that Lane Johnson's sudden appearance will career them to a win against the Ravens. I would much rather them be cautious, just monitor him through the week, sit him if needed, let him rest, let him work through it, let him heal. He was supposed to do that this offseason. We know he's one of the toughest players imaginable. The guy just does not stop working his ass off, which is fine, but at some point that pain tolerance and that awareness has to come into play. And I think that's often the big thing with football players, especially on the offensive line, where these are like transformers in terms of humans. Sometimes putting that pride aside and saying, hey, I can't go, it's probably better for the team that I don't play. It's a tough pill to swallow for Lane, and it's a tougher pill to swallow for the Eagles. Hopefully he is fine. My worst not. I think I'm just paranoid because of previous medical situations. That's the thing. Hopefully we don't see that, but the great news is he doesn't need surgery. And the better news is that Jack Driscoll's been fairly competent in his place. But that does it for the news today, guys. Hopefully this has just been a nice little filler video while I wait for NFL Game Pass to fix itself. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, leave your comments down below. From myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you soon with some Travis Fulgham film content and a jersey giveaway.